Welcome back to Ediction. For some of you, no time has passed, but for us, a month has passed. A game jam happened to Bird again, so he made an entire 3D furry visual novel.
Yeah.
And Ka was there, and I wasn't there. I was just over here in Blueprints land.
You're busy. I thought you were like going to conventions and like all sorts of stuff for the first half of the month.
I did go to a convention, yeah. For a bit. But yeah, trying to pick up where we left off with this thing, with our poor, suffering zombie goat.
Yeah, we'll go with goat.
I think he was a goat.
Does it really matter?
You can't just say that.
But it doesn't matter for the plot, because the whole point is that the body is just like the body, but he's like, yeah, I don't care about this.
That's not the whole point. He thinks that, or he's coped by saying that to himself. But that's not. Yeah, it's inherently not true.
Well, coping mechanisms are 100% right and should never be examined.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Do I need to come over? Do I need to visit?
No, leave my shower alone.
I went all the way to
story video.
I went all the way to Seattle and I didn't even visit the shower. What a waste of a trip.
That's your fault. The shower was available the whole time.
Uh-huh. Quivering with anticipation. It's a sad little triangle. You've stared into the campfire for so long it starts to leave after images. There have been no words shared between you and Hermeto for hours, and now it feels as though it was all time wasted. The climb is over. You stand now on holy ground, here atop the mantle. For someone now so obsessed with it being over, everything has always felt too soon.
That's why anyone would, shit, something popped up over the screen. Give me a second.
Nailed it.
Steam
Perfect.
was like, hi, do you want to update me? And I was like,
not right now. That's why anyone would even bother wanting it over with in the first place. Saves you all sorts of trouble. But you've never been very good at deciding what it is you want.
What?
Oh.
It's a different color.
Let me just
gotta get used to
the screen a little bit bigger so it's easier for me to see when I'm done talking.
That's a good start.
Ramla's having a rough time today.
But you've never been very good at deciding what it is you want before it's wanted. Hermeto shifts somewhere to your right. Right, I'm Ramla, aren't
I? Yeah, I'm Hermeto.
Let's just rewind a little bit. It's fine.
Hey everybody, welcome.
No, I'll just edit it. I'll edit that bit. Stop.
Okay.
It's our fault.
Do your thing.
That's why anyone would even bother wanting it over with in the first place. Saves you all sorts of trouble. But you've never been very good at deciding what it is you want before it's wanted. Hermeto shifts somewhere to your right. But you do not tear the eye away from the fire. You no longer have felt the need to join him in sleeping at day's end. There was something too vibrantly alive in you, as if afraid to even sleep. That even sleep could invite the touch of death. Or I'm just nervous. Though probably true, you're simply too used to trying to see meaning in everything. Knowing that the gods were far from perfect does not change that you live their design, a thing with intention. In a sense, their imperfections cause one to derive nearly endless meaning. Thoughts, experiences, and conclusions that distill into language. Hundreds and hundreds of years of that. The thoughts that each and every action within that time frame matters is absurd, but logically true. Which means that your decision matters no matter how worthless you make it to be. This is why you hate having decisions. That was the true reason for faith in the end. Now that you think about it, Hermeta was wrong. Your faith was not one from fear. It was a matter of convenience. Well, for lack of better words, it saved you. You don't know how long the eye has gone without blinking. The fire never seems to dry the eyes out, a fact that you consider with little more than idle curiosity. You're sure the body has quite a few features a body shouldn't have now, but that's always been true. The pain has only blossomed in kind. You winced even when brushing dust off the arms. Sometimes the root of the horns atop the head throb with a strange soreness. Remember that question you were trying to figure out down in the joist?
I don't.
I think it was the big debate we had with ourselves.
Oh, okay.
If this
How
is
could
what...
I forget that? That scene fucking ruled.
Yeah, it's also like an hour of the game.
Yeah. It's been a month, but yeah, that scene was awesome. I loved how it just played with the visual novel genre of like conversation branches and stuff like that to just end up turning it into, it like subverted that into like this loop where you just kind of
trapped
kept going
you in
back
it
to the
and
same
spiraled.
point. Yeah, exactly. That was really cool.
If this is what death has been for hundreds of years, how can it be wrong? Right. So, if you exist, how can you be wrong? You can't unexist. You can die. You can choose to end it, but you already exist. Existence itself has already allowed it. It doesn't mean I like existing. It doesn't mean existence was ready to make it bearable. And it doesn't mean that destroying that pillar isn't the right thing to do. And it doesn't mean that destroying that pillar isn't the right thing to do, for me, or for the world. Yes. And so, ending it would be your choice, one you can justify with evidence and with reason. So why does it still feel wrong? It's the lack of contrast in the font can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes.
Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah. So why does it still feel wrong? It'd be helpful if it was like not if one of them was italicized and the other one wasn't, or at the very least.
Yeah, exactly. Like differentiating it with just a 3% change in darkness or lightness is kind of rough. Like anything would have helped, bold or different font or like something. But man, this is rough.
Normally, I'm like, oh, okay, I can tell Ramla's talking.
Difficult font to read.
Yeah, normally I'm like, I can tell that Ramla's talking because it says Ramla, and so the next line, when it changes colors, I can spot that. But when Ramla's first line is an ellipses, I can't tell if it's changing color with the second line or not. So I'm like, So why does it still feel wrong? Because it is the basic mortal desire to allow all things to exist. You worry about lost opportunities. You worry about devaluing that which was truly good in your life. You deny yourself 1,000 pleasures for the sake of principle. Nobility in death has always been your romance of choice. These are qualities you are able to rationalize away. You know because you have done it before. Death isn't an unkind thing to want. You believe that. What would I be like if I never felt pain the way I do? You quickly find that trying to imagine that is impossible. None of your experiences would be the same, down to the very day you were born. Okay, but if I suddenly had no pain, right now, would I still want to die? Yes. Why? Because you believe that your time has been up. You had your life, and it was a full one. There was no joy waiting for you at the end of it. No reward. You want an end to the pain, not just for yourself, but for the world. Regardless of Hermeto's intentions, you believe that this will make the world a better one, even if it means a world without you in it. Maybe the stuff that makes up your thoughts will come undone and get made into something that can live a better life. You imagine that surviving only prolongs your agony at the expense of this possible new soul. You don't really know where you got that idea from. You think it lingered somewhere from childhood, collecting dust in the back of your mind. So the truth, in essence, is that I feel I am the right one to make a sacrifice. There is no one more suitable for this decision than me. The words feel right. If it were Zide, I'd never forgive Hermeto. Hermeto. He still sleeps. How odd that he always chooses to swaddle himself so tightly with his blankets. Doesn't it hurt? Stop thinking about that. Wait, here's a memory. It's another thing from when you were a child. Your mother yelled at you, though you can't recall why. There was something to the exasperation in her voice that gave you pause. And as you sat in your room, you wondered if everyone felt the exact same pain you did, and only you found it unbearable. Why bring these things back up? Because you never challenged them before. It's not going to matter. That's why it's coming up now, before it loses the chance to matter. I'm not desperate, not like Hermeto. No, but even still, you want to be sure of your decision. You're not used to this openness. Like when Hermeto left you back in Foundation after you saved him from the throne's spear. You're without any guidance that isn't your gut. You're exposed and under threat. For all your years, you're inexperienced. Hermeto said neither of us knew how to stop. Because Hermeto isn't that experienced either. Never mind. I don't want to think about that. But you think about him regardless. Nuh-uh. No, I don't, Baka. His wings.
His sexy, not present wings.
Why insist I see the scars? He explained that, didn't he? He was ashamed. He was ashamed of wanting me to see them in the first place. So, again, why call attention to that? He wanted you to see. That's why. But he was ashamed. Maybe he wanted you to see he was ashamed. Is he principled or not? He makes this so confusing. Is the alternative being selfish? Yes, I think so. Principles are a fine guise for a basic desire. Why is desire such an ugly word in the first place? Why is it so wrong to want something? Because it's selfish. The only thing the word selfish can define is what you want as it is compared to the wants of all others. Can you even imagine how not to be selfish? I can barely tell anymore. His inner monologue is really ready to just unpack every single complex he's developed.
Yeah, like, I'm just listening.
And here's all the ways that you lie to yourself, you fucking idiot. His mission. What pushed him to be a gloaming man? What causes a man to turn against the world? Because of what he knows. But knowing something is wrong, and setting out to solve it at great personal risk isn't something people typically tend to do. Because you happen to have only known tyrants, victims, and cowards. That felt harsh. It was, wasn't it? Hermeto was harsh too. A mission like his would make a harsh man out of anyone.
But he's a gloaming man, dumbass.
His family. He made it sound like his family was cruel to him. This doesn't surprise you. Nobility have always acted like starved animals around each other. So he wanted out then. If so, he got what he wanted. Did he? You suppose you don't really know that for sure? His future. What comes after this for him? Once I die, what does he do? Do you even know if he'll survive? You've seen the joist. Everything around Zaid was touched. Nothing was spared. The people were. It didn't seem like they were affected until they were all piled up. What if that means they were banished before Zaid died? I guess I don't know. Let's just assume he survives. What then? Then his mission is complete. Okay. Anything else? You don't know anything else about what drives him. It all completes upon your death. He ushers you there, and then it ends. Sounds lonely. Maybe you should fucking ask him.
No. Maybe.
It's famously a great idea to try to solve other people in your head instead of talking to them. Ask the manosphere.
Oh man, if only I just wore a tighter suit, then I would understand him.
Suit so tight, it's practically inside of him. That's enough. Here's a question for you. Oh, wonderful.
Oh, wonderful.
Does sound like you. Instead of your life without pain, what about this? If you died and met Hermeto before you became a confessor, what would be different? That doesn't make sense. He only sought me out because of the rot mark. That isn't the point. I guess he'd try to get me into his revolution. Tell me all the secrets of death, but not without warning me of the consequences. Would it work? I don't know. Probably. He changed my life in terrible ways. In the end, I don't think it'd be all that different from being a confessor. A different path laid out for me to take and help make sense of why I suffer so much. Sort of like how it's gone so far. He's led you all the way up to the mantle. Guess he was right. Neither of us know how to stop. And that's that? That's that.
The end.
The roll credits. No conclusion. Then all that remains is to wait for the morning. You think of gray paint. That's like the pressing the back button on the Xbox 360 controller. It opens the how many hours you'd like to wait menu.
Mm-hmm.
Look at those tiny little figures down there.
Oh my god, that is them.
That's a big fucking door.
Yeah.
That's a tiny
I wonder
little
what's on the other
Hermeto.
side.
Little Hermeto with the blue cape.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Admittedly, my brain is like, that's the same color scheme as TJ and Chase from Echo. The two characters standing next to each other. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, if you really want a classic duo, one of them has to be like tall and skinny, and the other has to be short and fat.
It's got to use the. We just need to open the door with the password to the Mines of Moria, which is just the word friend.
Well,
Aw.
they made
sweet.
lots of friendship up along the way.
Yeah, they killed everyone they met.
Yeah.
And now they're here to make death
Ramla.
real.
Yeah.
Here we are.
The doorway ahead is cavernous. The kind of passageway that captures so much air it literally yawns. It would take you several minutes just to walk from one wall to the next, and it would take more than 100 of you stacked on top of each other to reach the ceiling. A doorway that befits the gods. You cannot resist the feeling that this is an act of trespass. Is it safe?
No. No, it isn't.
What threatens us?
Whatever they saw fit to guard to edicts of death itself.
Ah.
Ramla.
The body turns to face the eye at him.
This is within our means. I will ensure it is. More than that, I trust you. Can you trust me?
You find it surprising that your answer is uncomplicated. Yes. I mean, this entire journey's been an act of trust at this point. We will act as one. For the first time, you see him give a smile not accompanying a wry laugh or sardonic remark. You're glad you got to see it before the end. You decide, at least some melodrama is allowed. You're welcome. His name went from red to yellow. I don't know if I know the distinction.
Because we acted as one.
Oh, wait, yellow is internal.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he was yellow in the last scene, too, when he was talking to himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You're welcome. We have places to be.
Well, glad to get that out of the way. But it looks like there's quite a walk ahead of us still. This hallway is nigh endless.
It runs deep.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Fuck you. It's only cool when I say it.
It runs deep, no, nigh endless. Work on your melodrama.
At some point, we will need a source of light.
Not to worry on that end. I'll be able to provide.
There's nothing you can think of left to do. You take the first step. It echoes ahead of you, as you're sure it will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. I'm entering my tomb. The thought is strange to consider, but it doesn't trouble you. There is a feeling of peace, and in its wake, a pacifying coolness spreads throughout. An understanding. An acceptance. You're several more steps in before you realize Hermeto is still standing outside the threshold, head held aloft. You try to follow his gaze, but it doesn't seem to lead anywhere in particular. What's wrong?
Oh, nothing. Just thinking.
He follows after you, quickening his pace to catch up. Goodbye, beautiful mountain, and also the concept of eyesight.
Well, you didn't need it.
Embrace the void. It has the vibe of like those moments where you're supposed to be staring into the darkness because you might see something in there. You're like, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, like we're gonna see two eyeballs.
Yeah, your brain just like starts filling in shapes in like the real darkness. About what?
Nothing important. Have you noticed this tunnel is confusing?
Is he changing the subject, or was that what he was thinking of? In what way?
The stone around us is polished gray. Granite, by the looks of it.
What is strange about granite? I haven't given it much thought, really. I've always taken it for granite.
Holy texts describe the mantle as made entirely of lead.
That's true.
Well, there goes one of my theories about what makes the gods go crazy.
Huh?
That is quite harmful when exposed to the body and mind, Ramla.
Guess it wouldn't matter to us, even if it were made of lead.
Yes. Quite.
Silence carries you both forward. Your clarity makes it easy to think of little. Before long, the silence feels comfortable. Even though many things could be said, there was no pressing urge within you to say them. You appreciate the cool breeze on your back. You imagine it is the world welcoming you to where you were meant to be. Even the pains that remain seem to pale in anticipation to what comes next. You realize that you are excited to die, as if nothingness is something you can actually experience. But you know that is not what appeals to you. It's the idea that, somewhere in the future, something is better, because a man in pain endured a terrible life long enough to die the right way. These ideas fill your head as you travel further and further into the passage. In about an hour, you have gone far enough to warrant Hermeto to brandish his staff and reveal his source of light.
We walk out the other side of the tunnel, and we walk in on Spencer and Fisher talking to each other. And he's like,
Is this a bad time? And then, oh, hello, Kurt. How have you been?
We do have 2 consecutive games with people with stories that end in a dark tunnel. That is basically the transition from like life and death, essentially.
yeah.
So that is funny. For confused people that didn't experience our lives chronologically, we're talking about the game 922. The ideas fill your head as you travel further and further into the passage, and in about an hour you've gone far enough to warrant Hermeto to brandish his staff and reveal his source of light. A pale fire alights upon its end, strange and ethereal. I was hoping his wings markings would just glow.
That'd be pretty sick.
I thought he was just gonna start glowing gold. A pale fire alights upon its end, strange and ethereal. Somehow, this entire journey, you've never seen his magic in such a literal display until now. And somehow, you find that the power to bring back the banished not quite as compelling as a little wick of flame. You stare at it, transfixed. You make sure the body's steps keep you behind him. This way, he guides you through the dark to the end. For good or ill, your psychopomp. His shadow falls across your face as he walks ahead of you. You like to imagine being eclipsed by it. You like to imagine yourself a vast, terrible thing, vast enough for the full shape of the shadow to glide alongside it. These thoughts only increase in their abstraction the further into the dark you go. The scythe and the wheat, the drum and the dancer, the thumb that leaves the page dog-eared, the candle that burns the whole house to ash, the teacher and the friend and the progenitor, the tyrant and the victim and the coward, the light and the dark. It leads you to the end.
We're here. Be ready.
You come to as if from a dream. How many hours did you spend doing that? You feel as though your mind is racing. Quick. Process the space. The enormity of it. There is a change ahead. Be present for it.